Warning: some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
The cryptid huntress, Jessica Jones. It is always absolutely legendary to get you to pop in to the Fox Den for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on Star Fox Radio. Yet please allow me to feed. Much better. Absolutely delicious. Now that I am fully revamped, recharged, and ready to rumble, it is time for Jessica Jones and myself to take a walk into the darkness. My creatures of the night, yes, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on Star Fox Radio. We again have the cryptid huntress, Jessica Jones, who has been super busy like always and fresh off of expeditions as always, yet she is hanging out with us again. How you doing tonight, my friend?
Well, hey, I'm doing excellent as always. Happy to be here and hanging out with you tonight.
Appreciate you. It's always good to definitely take some time and link up and hear what you've been up to and try to bring some clarity to the whole Dogman topic. What's new your way?
Oh man, well, we've been getting some Dogman reports in, and there's one out of Texas. I can't get into detail on it too much because I don't know the details yet. I just know there's been a family that was being stalked at their home by one, from what I was told, I think it was trying to open their back door at some point. So I'm going to get briefed on that this week. There's a gentleman who was inquiring with one of our teams to see if we'd be interested in coming out there and investigating it. So I think that's somewhere in Texas. So not a surprise though, because there's a lot of dogmen out there in that area. You know, we have that Texas dogman triangle out there where there's werewolf reports and dogman sightings. So I don't know. I think it'd be really cool to get out to Texas to do some dogman hunting.
Yeah, definitely. Texas is pretty strange for sure. And actually, one of my friends, Matt Harvey from Deep Woods Paranormal, him and his wife, yeah, they're from Texas. And they recently sent me some pretty gnarly tracks that when I sat back and looked at them, I sent them out to our science team, but my science team has taught me pretty well now where I understand some things. And immediately I was like, wait a second, those looks like the tracks that would match the Shenango Valley tracks that my friend Jamie King from Small Town Monsters got. And also, I was like, wait a second, those match some of the tracks that Jody Cook has got from Ohio in the snow. So I'm looking at them all, boom, same type of foot with the tracks and everything. So I was like, all right, that's definitely pretty gnarly. And like you said, with the cave systems all down there. And I have heard recently that a lot of people have seen what looks to be hyenas basically roaming around those areas. So I've come to the conclusion, more or less, for myself that I at first really couldn't have made a honest answer if someone was to force me into stating whether or not I believed in the Dogman, just because I don't have anything paranormal based that's occurred to me. I'm just a journalist. But now, fast forward after really covering the topic hardcore now for a year. I mean, I've been looking into it forever, but Jody's brought me on, and just this last year, I've dove into it hardcore. And I still believe people are seeing, yes, hyenas. I still believe there is misidentifications going on. I still believe baboons and things are out there and people are seeing those. And the reason I state that is people can look this up. The old Tarzan movies that were filmed down in Florida, super cool that he didn't dispose of the animals after, but the director had all these exotic animals shipped in that he just let loose after, all in Florida. And still to this day, people report seeing, monkeys and baboons down in that area. So again, I believe, yes, there's been exotic animals that have escaped that are on the loose. I mean, Jody Cook found a baboon skull with a bullet hole in the back of the head in 2006 in Ohio. How the heck did that get there? Good question. I also believe people are hoaxing. I believe some people really think they are seeing things, but might be having psychological breaks with things that are out of their control, unfortunately, because mental illnesses and things are real. I believe all of that. I believe that the Dinopithecus, the short-faced cave bear, cave hyenas, all that stuff still potentially exists because they haven't gone extinct, supposedly, what, 10,000, 11,000 years? Okay, blink of an eye. Boom, fine. But then now, after pushing that all aside, right, have these encounters and reports from time frames and people where it's just nothing that falls into the line of that. Okay, they legit just say it looked like some sort of bipedal canine. Okay, and I mean, one of the examples I really like to use is the 1887 case in Michigan with those 11 lumberjacks. Okay, they traveled a huge long distance to find work. It was hard to find work. They're out there. They see what looks to be some sort of strange dog that was black. They thought it was someone's pet or something. So they try to follow it around to play with it. It runs into this log pile. One of the loggers starts trying to jam a stick in there to get it back out to play with it. They hear it making some sort of strange human-like screaming noise, two popping sounds. It stands up and is just yelling at them. They run off, get their stuff, never return, right? Okay, you have instances like that where it's like, what really could explain that? We're not talking about one person now that saw that. So are we talking about 11 loggers that just all of a sudden decided to come up with this hoax, right? And just cost themselves work at this point in time? Really doesn't add up, you know?
Oh, I totally know. Yeah. I've got so many things that I could add to all of this because I was thinking about, first of all, down in Florida, where they filmed the Tarzan show, the Tarzan movie, I think it was a TV series. That is a place called Wakulla Springs, and that's where we vacationed when I was a kid. And I just want to say a fun fact about Wakulla Springs, where there is a lot of interesting wildlife down there. They're known for their alligators and the freshwater spring there. And there's a place where you can actually go swimming at that spring, and there are alligators swimming around. And they have a lifeguard that will watch for alligators, but you're pretty much on your own. I mean, for each man his own. And when I was a kid, my parents let me go swim out there with the alligators. I don't know if that was a great idea, but people want to know how I got tough. It's because I was swimming with alligators when I was a kid. Okay. I mean, I was swimming for my life, honestly. But anyways, it's an interesting fun fact. They have a lot of weird anomalous stuff going on at Wakulla, including smoke that comes out of the ground. I forgot what they call that. Some kind of smoke that comes out of the ground. My buddy Connor Flynn knows all about that. He was telling me about it. But lots of strange animals, exotic animals are down there. They're known in that area for sightings of monkeys, like you said. That is down there at Wakulla and Shell Point area down in Florida. I know the area pretty well. Also, the hyenas that you were mentioning. There have been a lot of hyena sightings. I did a show about a year ago with Mr. E of Cryptids of the Corn. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys. Great podcast, by the way, if you're interested in the cryptids and the things that we talk about, Dogman too. But I had him on my show, and we talked about the hyena Dogman, and he has done a lot of research in the Appalachian hyenas. Okay, so I think there's maybe some sort of a connection there with the Dogman and the hyenas, with that hyena type Dogman. But back in the day, I mean, we really don't know the true history of the United States. Okay, but pre-United States, this land, everything that I've been taught, everything that we've learned in our school books, I question it all. I question every bit of it now, especially when it comes to our history and the dates of things that happen. I think that our timelines are skewed in some way, and we just don't know what kind of settlements we had here. If you look into the architecture of the old world's fairs and things like that, I mean, I think our history was way different than what we've been taught. So I do know that throughout centuries we've had royalty, let's just say, from ancient Greece and I mean from all over Europe, from Asia probably, Egypt even, who settled here, who came here, who visited here, who had settlements here. You look at the Grand Canyon, there's ancient, like a giant Buddha, okay, in the caves in the Grand Canyon. There's also Egyptian artifacts and stuff that go back centuries, thousands of years. I mean, millions of years, man. I don't mean millions, but maybe, who knows? But they had exotic animals with them a lot of times, especially the royalty, I would assume. And they had their little, what do they call it, menageries of animals, and all sorts of exotic animals, like probably lions and tigers and camels and hyenas. Okay, so some of those surely could have gotten out too, or they could have had them here and let them do free roaming and things. And they're just remnants of those centuries ago. We probably have some of those still here. So I don't know. It's just food for thought. It's something to think about. Just with our history not being exactly what we've been told, and there's no telling what all kind of exotic animals have been here throughout the centuries.
Very well stated. And that reminds me, if you don't know of the individual, Walter is his name. He had a show on History Channel. I don't know if it's still running, but he would go back and basically try to figure out things in history that didn't line up. And he's a geologist. Really great stuff. I can't remember what the show is called, but he dove into the Grand Canyon stuff and also some of the giant skeletons and things. But it is truly interesting. And like you said, with the exotic animals, yes, people don't realize how much an animal can adapt. Okay, so hyenas, for example, have been known to survive injuries that any other animal would not be able to survive, especially out in the wild. Okay, scientists have documented them before they knew this, where they thought it was straight up a mortal wound, but they watched, and it wasn't ones ranked high in these packs either. Okay, a lot of people don't realize with hyenas, the females are the ones that run the squads. Okay, the males are on the bottom, and all right, the males are usually the ones that have been kicked out of other tribes too, or basically just bottom of the barrel, even if in their own tribes, which is why their teeth are all usually worn down and they're not as healthy looking. Okay, so a lot of people don't realize though that they can overcome these crazy injuries. And it wasn't the healthy females. Like I said, it was some of the bottom ones that were able to nurse themselves back with like their intestines hanging out and all kinds of gnarly things. All right. And hyenas are immune to anthrax and rabies. Doesn't
Wow.
affect them. Also, the acidity level in their stomach, again, they can pretty much eat anything and not have issues. And also, people don't realize that they travel in packs. I think the largest hyena pack was like 130 plus, okay? And also, they are the true kings of Africa, meaning they have like a 90% success ratio. They don't, people think that hyenas are just garbage scavengers. No. Okay, that's like the striped hyena and some of the subspecies. The spotted hyenas, yeah, sure, just like any other predator, a lion will take over something that's already deceased. So a pack of wolves, okay, everything will do that. But hyenas like to hunt. Hyenas hunt down water buffalo. They hunt down gazelle. They hunt down leopards and baboons and lions and such. And they're so hardy. I watched a male lion grab this hyena right behind the mane, shook it, was just holding on. Well, the hyena's buddies just rolled up, let him go or let her go. It did. That hyena gets right back up and starts brawling with the lion now. Okay. And I also watched another one where wild dogs aren't really huge, but it was a pack of 20, and wild dogs are wild dogs in Africa for a reason. They survived up against hyenas and lions and, leopards. They are no pushovers. Well, again, this hyena, he or she, don't know, but either way, they were caught away from their little tribe. Okay, and these dogs were going gnarly on it. But hyenas have such a unique way of covering their flank too, like turning their heads all the way back. And yeah, so if you were to take a hyena from Africa, a healthy breeding population, meaning if you were to take a male and a female from opposite ranks where there would no be incest, and you let them loose, whether it was by mistake or on purpose in an area like Texas, Arizona, California, Florida, if nothing happens to them, if they're not hit by cars or things like that, and like I said, there was enough of a healthy population for them to reproduce a couple times, they could easily have done that. And I don't know, I just think sometimes people overlook that aspect, but when you do push that all away, there still are the encounters like I just spoke to you about, or the ones where Herodotus speaks about that, which again, sure, I've mentioned this before. Alexander the Great could have been lying, okay? Sure, people can hoax. Maybe he was, but then why do all these other people, were they hoaxing too? No, this is ancient times. You know what I mean? And then you have the Aztecs that also have drawings with these basically look like the Cynocephali, okay? You have the Indian culture, not the Native Americans in America, the actual country of India that speaks of these creatures coming down from the mountains. You have Jody Cook in 2001 speaking to merchants in Iraq. Same thing. These creatures would come down and trade. So where does that come from? That doesn't sound, no matter how much evolution's worth, that doesn't sound like a cave hyena to me, a spotted hyena or baboon, or like I said, I do believe in all that, but that does not sound like that.
That's right. Well, there are plenty of depictions of dog-headed men on our old world maps. And I back up. I totally agree with what you're talking about. They were known to be traitors. Okay. And I don't mean traitors, I mean traders. And so they were also known to eat humans as well. They would actually eat humans, and I don't think they would go hunt humans. But if they had, there's actually a battle. I think it's King Arthur. King Arthur fought a battle out of Edinburgh. It was right outside of Edinburgh at some point against an entire army of Cynocephali. And and they said that the prisoners of war were all eaten. And I'm talking about
Yes.
the dog-headed men were eating the humans. Now they, like I said, they weren't going out and hunting them from what I was researching, but they did eat them.
Yeah,
And
free food, right? Well, I
yeah,
mean,
right.
jeez, that's gnarly
Yeah.
because the thought of that, I mean, in, lore, King Arthur was obviously, a badass too, but when you think of Alexander the Great, he was pretty badass too. And I mean, quote
Mhm.
from him is that these things were ferocious fighters. So now imagine just anyone that had to fight with him, because according to Alexander the Great, the majority of the time he was able to fight beside these things. But I guess there were one or two times where he had negative interactions with them. So that must be one heck of a battle.
Well, the term super soldier comes to mind when we're discussing, especially the hyena type dogmen. And if I figured anything out, I've pretty much figured out that if anything can be weaponized, it will be. And if there were dog-headed men and armies of cynocephali at some point in our history, then if they're all gone today, let's just say they were all gone today and there was not a single one left, I can promise you the people in charge, the people who are in the know would by any means necessary get some sort of DNA. Okay, because there are people who know about this stuff. There's got to be. They would take some DNA and they would create super soldiers out of those, for use today. I think that's why, me personally, I think that these hyena dogmen that people are seeing, I think that they could absolutely be some sort of super soldier or the remnants of some kind of super soldier project. Not to say there aren't some that are natural, organic, that that weren't made in a lab or, bred some way or, for a program or something. But you got to think hyenas sound, I mean, they're indestructible from what you were just describing.
Pretty
What
much.
other perfect super soldier would there be other than a hyena dogman?
Hyenas are super interesting in regards of they're not related to felines or canines. They're related to mongooses and civets and weasels, and so they love to dig burrows too and such. So yeah, it's definitely pretty intriguing as to potentially, like I said, what could be really occurring with all that because some of the stuff, no matter what, I mean, it just doesn't line up with what I said, the things I do believe in. I mean, people saying that they watched it have, raccoon like hands. And actually, I wanted to ask you on that. Did you know as well? Because I think that this has something to do with the Dogman as well. Deborah Haswell's had some reports she sent me where people said it had like raccoon like features, hands, feet. And people don't realize that I believe it was around like 40 million years ago, give or take, the raccoon species split off from the bear when the bear species also split off from the canines, okay? Because you had the Amphicenoidae that was neither bear nor canine, but that's around this time frame where they were, like I said, not really distinguishable. But once they broke off, there was a raccoon that was the size of a Volkswagen at a point in time, okay? And I love raccoons, and like I said to you before, they're super cool, but they can be gnarly trash pandas. Okay, so now have one the size of a Volkswagen, and indigenous cultures called them wandering bears or the long-tailed bears, and they have super articulated hands, and they have basically feet where they could get upright like that if they need to. And I see my pet squirrel do it all the time. People don't realize she walks very fine on her back feet and sits very fine, dancing around and or reaching up with her other hand trying to get stuff. I mean, sure, she's not walking miles on her back feet, but what I'm trying to say is I think the raccoons might have something to do with this as well because you had that species that was extremely big, and raccoons in general drown dogs and other animals that they want to feed on. I mean, again, dogs don't have articulated hands, so if a raccoon grabs it by its collar or throat, it literally will drown it. There's videos of that. I think there might be something going on because raccoons again are a very interesting species with what they're related to.
Yeah, I do. I've heard that. It's a constant when it comes to people describing their encounter with a dogman. It's always raccoon hands. I hear that all the time. It's something that comes up over and over again. People say they could not get that out of their memory. They had hands like a raccoon. So there's no telling how they're related to, if they are related to raccoons. But I mean, wow, I couldn't imagine a raccoon the size of a Volkswagen. That's
Right.
a scary thought. I love raccoons. I absolutely love raccoons. We have raccoons and possums here in Georgia, and I don't mind raccoons, except for when they're out there eating, trying to get in my food and stuff. When
Well,
we're out
yeah,
there
of course.
camping.
Yes, yes. But no, they're cute little guys or girls, but they can be maniacs. Like I said, I mean, when I used to date this girl up at Orono, which is really far up north in Maine, when I'd go up there and bring out her trash sometimes, geez, and crow at the squirrels and the raccoons that were in there. Man, I thought my squirrel was big. The dumpster squirrels up there that were eating like breakfast sandwiches and stuff. Holy Christmas trees, they were savages. So yeah, there was times where I opened it up and there were some raccoons in there. I was like, oh, okay, I'm out of here. So again, I just think, all right, I don't know if I believe in coincidences. I don't know. I mean, maybe, but some people say there aren't any coincidences. So I don't know. It just seems ironic. There we go. That this depiction of that. Why would it have raccoon-like features if it's not some sort of relation in that type of family range? It has to. I mean, I shouldn't say has to, but it would make logical sense to have some sort of lineage along the line somewhere.
Potentially it could. I mean, we don't know what kind of strange hybrids we have running around in this world. I like to say that Earth is a laboratory. Okay, that's a conclusion that I've come to when talking to some of my friends, my research buddies. I think Earth could be a laboratory, and there's just all sorts of weird hybridization projects going on. I don't know who's doing it, but there could that could be a factor in it. It absolutely could. Um, I mean, it'd be great to have some kind of genetic testing done, some DNA samples. Like we worked really hard to get DNA samples with the Bigfoot, with the Sasquatch, and we have, like Dr. Melba Ketchum has done some the genome projects and stuff, and it'd be nice to have that for Dogman too. Just saying.
Yeah, and I've been working really hard to get our science team churning. So I mean, I got our environmentalist Colleen, and then we have a biologist now by the name of Kyle, which is great. And then we have a spelunker by the name of Meku, and then we have a geologist, William White, and then we also have a master tracker and survivalist. So that's why I'm really trying to bring as much science and just clarity to the topic as possible, and just allow people that are educated to speak and try to figure out exactly like what it is that is occurring. And they are doing a great job, because they not only try to look at it from the actual scientific aspects, but then some of the other ones when it doesn't line up. Like when you were talking about the Grand Canyon, William White was talking about how, being a geologist, he knows how all rock formations and et cetera, they all have names, but then the names when you get into the Grand Canyon are all like Hindu god names and such, and you're not allowed to like explore around in there. And yeah, he's a big believer as well that many cultures came to North America far before Christopher Columbus and others that claimed they were some of the first explorers here. So again, like you were saying, what if they had some of their exotic animals with them as well, or pets that they had brought over? I mean, that would explain why animals could just be in places where they aren't located in.
100%. That's right. And also, when we're talking about the Grand Canyon and this ancient settlements there, they were underground. Okay, they were inside the cave systems, inside the caverns, and when we talk about caves and caverns, people, in my mind, I used to always think, oh, it's just like little tight crevices and cracks, and you got to squeeze through. Actually, it's a whole other world down there. Okay, when you go into some of these underground, where the civilizations lived, I mean, they were huge. It was huge. It's beyond belief how big some of these places are underground. Like I said, it's a whole other world. And I just did a show this past week talking about, we were discussing inner Earth, and we have to factor in that, we always try to wonder, like, we always try to figure out, like, where do Bigfoots go during the day? Where do they live? Like, where are these dogmen? Where are they hiding at? Where are the dogmen hiding? Even cryptids like reptilians or whatever, all the different cryptids. Well, I've been told they're underground. They live underground in inner Earth, subterranean. Reptilians and the dogmen are in the tunnels down there, and cave systems and caverns and stuff. So there's a whole other world down there. Okay, I don't know. I'm still kind of wrapping my head around the conversation I had with my friend Nick Sylvester last week, because we were talking about dogmen and other cryptids being assets. And that's such an important topic, because we were talking about, how they can be used as assets or any kind of agency asset. And you got to think, why wouldn't they be used as assets? And by assets, I mean used for assassinations, used for kidnappings, used for spying, I mean, I'm going to say kidnapping would be one of the big ones. To take people, I don't know where. I was just on a podcast who says he's from an elite bloodline, and he, man, if you get a chance, you need to listen to that podcast. He was pretty much talking about how he was abused as a child, because he was of this bloodline, and, got put through the MK Ultra and all that kind of stuff. And pretty much he went to go live with wolves and dogs, and he was unaliving his friends for his family and taking their life force and all this kind of stuff. He was really talking about how, when I guess it's these elite bloodlines. We've talked about this with the Church of Satan, and through black magic and rituals, people being able to transform into werewolves and stuff. Well, he actually talked about it firsthand, okay, on this show. But yeah, he was talking about, underground stuff as well. So this stuff is happening, whether people want to believe it or not. Okay, whether people want to believe it or not, I believe this is some real stuff. My buddy Nick always has his ear to the streets, and does have some insider knowledge on these things. So like I said, whether we want to believe it or not, I think it's happening. I think we do have dogmen living underground.
Straight up nightmare fuel right there, because just the thought of caves and something subterranean is just mind-boggling. And to touch on what you were saying before we let you get going is, of course, any sort of animals and such that can be assets. I mean, look like the Persians and such. They used elephants and all these huge beasts, and other people used horses. And some cultures had bears. And also, there was an old war story where it's pretty funny, actually. This bear that these group of soldiers got when it was a cub, it was abandoned, and they raised it, but eventually they were heading off to war and they couldn't bring him with them, but they somehow talked their general into allowing them to bring this bear with them, that he'd be of some sort of value. They trained this bear how to carry things around and do all kinds of useful things, and he basically loved to take baths, but he'd use all the hot water, so they had to lock the bathroom because the bear had figured out how to get in there and turn on the hot water. Yes.
No way.
So he'd like smoke cigarettes and drink, they'd feed him beer and stuff. Like, you can look it up, it's hilarious. But either way, one night a spy came in to try to obviously infiltrate this area. Well, the bear was in the washroom, and that's one of the first areas the spy went into. And he sees the gargantuous bear in there, and it knows he's not part of his little buddies. So the bear screams, wakes everybody up. Well, fast forward during war, they had this bear carrying ammunition boxes and all kinds of stuff during war. It would like tug heavy military equipment. And when he retired, well, they all wanted to keep him, but they weren't allowed to. So at first they put him into, not the soldiers, but people that said that they had to. They put him into a zoo with other bears, but he didn't get along with the other bears because apparently they were too bear-like, and he like he had to get put in his own little cage, and all his soldier buddies would come in and visit him all the time and feed him beer and cigarettes and stuff.
God, so, that poor bear. I feel sorry for it. Man, all he wanted was a hot shower, okay, and a cigarette.
Yeah, you could train him to do that military asset. And also, I don't know if this is as cool as that, but they've trained a baboon recently. It can use a sniper rifle. It's not the best shot, but still, it's like training it how to use the sniper rifle. So, yeah, I mean, World War II, they used dolphins as military assets. A lot of people don't realize when the Nazis, a big way for us to be able to get through their minefields and things, because Hitler had basically like, something you'd put like around your garden, like a very thin metal wire, but it would distort the torpedoes with an electrical wave. So we were having big time issues, but they were trained dolphins to be able to swim around that stuff and implant, bombs and stuff on the boats. So yeah, of course, like, moral of all that stuff is, yeah, the bear story's humorous, but still the moral of it is that, of course, like, if something can be used as an asset, I mean, think how much ammunition box that one bear can carry compared to like how many people,
Oh yeah, I mean, and anything that can be weaponized will be weaponized. Absolutely. And I couldn't imagine. Oh my God, the bear. Yeah, that's a great story actually. And I mean, the baboon. Okay, so like that's how the Planet of the Apes series got started. I'm assuming. Okay.
Right.
So,
yes.
Yeah, that is it's pretty terrifying. The last thing I want to see is there's a lot of things that I don't want to see, but a baboon carrying
With
a
a
sniper
sniper rifle,
rifle, or
yeah.
with his finger on the trigger of a rifle, period, of any kind.
It's
Yeah,
messed up. Here's one
that's
more.
not cool. That's like giving one to a kid. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, pretty
Not
much.
smart.
No, and here's one more. This one's super
What?
funny too. There's a circus chimpanzee that had been trained to drive little clown cars and things, okay? Well, one day he jacked a car and he was going like 90 on the highway and the police
What?
pulled him over. Same thing. You looked that over and they realized it was a chimpanzee and the thing's just smiling and they got him to pull over. But exactly. I mean, I'm
That
sure
makes
that
a
could
good
be
story.
used as some sort of asset there as well. So, but yeah, of course.
Yeah, long. We don't know who's being used, what's being used for assets. I remember Jody telling me a story when he came on my show about a year or so ago about, I guess, the Middle East. And you did mention that earlier. The Dogman reports out of I don't know if it was Afghanistan or I can't remember where, but where, I believe they're being used as soldiers. Okay, the Dogmen are being used as soldiers. I think he was talking about maybe there's actually a Dogman that was, I hate to say this, but it had a sword in its hand and it was lopping off somebody's head or something, as like a prisoner of war. So that would actually remind me of something more like the race of the Cynocephali, the race of the dog-headed men. That's kind of what he was describing. But this was this was modern day in the Middle East. So,
That's so creepy. Like you said, there has to be something going on with that for sure.
mhm.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you again for popping in tonight, my friend, and hanging out with us. I always do appreciate you amongst your busy schedule coming to hang out and allotting some time with us. It's greatly, greatly appreciated.
Well, I appreciate you letting me hang out with you. I always have a good time. We have some pretty interesting conversations.
Well, you are one of my favorite people, and every time I do try to come up with any sort of interesting information, I try to send it your way. So, yeah, anytime I can help you, my friend, make sure to let me know.
Thank you. Same to you too. Um, yeah, we keep each other informed pretty well. So, well, I'll be back.
Thank you for everyone who once again stopped by tonight for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on Star Fox Radio. If you do enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, and share it. Feed the algorithm, and I will catch you on the next one.